welcome to another explainer. Okay, we are jumping right into this highly requested breakdown of the viral TikTok claims regarding the identity of the Zodiac Killer. Look, if you've been anywhere near the true crime side of the internet lately, you've absolutely seen this massive wave of posts making a literally staggering accusation about one of America's most elusive serial killers.
And it immediately makes you wonder, did modern internet sleuthing finally outsmart decades of rigorous police work to unmask the Zodiac? You know the history. For over 50 years, this case has been this incredibly frustrating maze of cryptic ciphers, dead ends, and just countless theories. But recently, a completely new suspect was thrust into the spotlight. And the crazy part? It wasn't by the FBI, and it wasn't by seasoned detectives. It was by the suspect's own grandson on a social media app.
So, here is the explosive, family-sourced allegation that started the whole shebang. In a series of really viral posts, TikTok user Jay Foy pointed the finger directly at his grandfather, a man named Richard Hoffman. Foy stated, quote, "I am simply sharing information with you guys on the internet." That bold claim is the entire premise of our investigative briefing today. So, is this the breakthrough we've been waiting for, or are we just looking at another internet ghost story?
To figure that out, here's our roadmap for today's cold case review. First, the viral Zodiac claim. Second, profiling Richard Hoffman. Third, historical heavyweights. Fourth, forensics versus digital sleuthing. And finally, the verdict on Hoffman.
Section 1, the viral Zodiac claim, dissecting the TikTok accusations. What's genuinely fascinating about this is how breaking down the TikToker's claims actually trains us to think like real investigators. When you're evaluating a suspect, you have to categorize the data into physical, circumstantial, and purely anecdotal evidence, right? So looking at the physical column, the claims hinge on a very specific spelling error and a set of initials. Circumstantially, Richard Hoffman was actually a Vallejo police officer. He was on duty in an unmarked car wearing plain clothes the very night Zodiac victims Darlene Ferrin and Michael Majigo were shot at Blue Rock Springs Park. Anecdotally, Foy claims Darlene was terrified of a local cop named Richard, who had shown up uninvited to a painting party, and he layers this with some intense family animosity toward Hoffman.
Section 2, profiling Richard Hoffman. Spelling, initials, and family grudges. Okay, so the crucial physical point we need to prioritize here is this incredibly specific handwriting and spelling link. The Zodiac Killer famously had these distinct spelling quirks, right? One of the big ones was spelling the word until with 2 L's. Well, Jay Foy dug up his grandfather's old police reports and found that Richard Hoffman also consistently misspelled until with 2 L's. It's definitely an eerie parallel. But we have to ask ourselves, does a shared spelling error make someone a cold-blooded serial killer? Or does it just mean they were a bad speller before spell check was a thing?
But then we get to this, which brilliantly illustrates the most direct piece of physical evidence the grandson points to. In 1966, before the official Zodiac murders actually began, Cherry Jo Bates was brutally murdered outside the Riverside City College library. 6 months later, this really morbid, handwritten poem was discovered carved underneath a library desk, seemingly written by the killer. Forensic and handwriting analysts noted exact similarities to the Zodiac's later writings. The bombshell here? That poem is signed with the exact initials R.H. at the bottom, Richard Hoffman. Foy also points out that his grandfather, much like the victim, had family ties to Nebraska.
Now let's step beyond those physical links and break down the psychological motives attributed to Hoffman by his grandson. Foy paints a pretty dark picture, describing his grandfather as controlling, manipulative, and unfaithful to his grandmother. He mentions Hoffman had this deep-seated hatred toward Foy's mother, which actually led to total estrangement. Foy hasn't had a relationship with him since he was 9. Also, in a documentary interview about the Blue Rock Springs shooting, Hoffman vividly described the male victim gurgling in pain and recalled watching Darlene Ferrin's bra fluttering as medics tried to save her. It's a deeply chilling detail for sure. However, we have to maintain a skeptical, objective tone here. Family dynamics and personal grudges definitely paint a picture of a troubled guy, but we cannot let family animosity artificially fuel modern viral accusations against historical facts.
Section 3, historical heavyweights, Arthur Lee Allen and Gary Francis Post.
Let's pivot for a second to compare Hoffman's specific evidence profile against previous suspects who have rightfully dominated official police investigations for decades. Take Arthur Lee Allen, the prime police suspect. The contrast is stark. Allen wasn't brought up on a TikTok whim. He faced multiple police search warrants. Investigators found bomb diagrams, dead animals in his freezer, a Royal Manual typewriter that matched the Zodiac letters, and literally a Zodiac brand watch with the exact crosshair symbol.
Plus, he wore size 10.5 wing walker boots, the exact military boots that left prints at the Zodiac crime scenes. A friend even reported Allen talked about hunting humans and shooting the tires off school buses, which matches a Zodiac threat exactly. Yet, despite this absolute mountain of circumstantial evidence, Allen was ultimately cleared by DNA, fingerprints, and handwriting analysis. Or, contrast Hoffman with Gary Francis Post, a suspect put forward by the independent investigative team Casebreakers. Like Hoffman, Post was a heavy-set white male who matched the general sketches. But Post had actual scars on his forehead matching the famous police composite. He had a military background, giving him access to those wing walker boots, which establishes a totally different physical evidence and motive profile. Witnesses even claimed he ran a posse in the High Sierras and allegedly confessed to the killings. Yet again, the FBI states this case remains open, and Post has no verified DNA match to the stamps on the Zodiac letters. This highlights how easily compelling, elaborate narratives can be built around disparate clues, yet still fall completely short of verified forensic proof. Section 4, Forensics versus Digital Sleuthing, the danger of confirmation bias. This brings us to a critical look at how we consume true crime today versus how crimes were actually investigated back in the 1960s. Look at the fundamental difference here. Rigorous 1960s police protocols, while imperfect, relied on tangible, physical evidence. They lifted bloody fingerprints from the cab driver Paul Stein's taxi. They found physical tire tracks and specific military boot prints at Lake Berryessa. They have partial DNA profiles extracted from the saliva on the stamps of the Zodiac's taunting letters. Contrast that with modern digital sleuthing. Today, a theory gains traction through TikTok algorithms, subjective visual similarities to sketches, unverified familial hearsay, and deep confirmation bias on internet forums. Basically, if you want a suspect to be the Zodiac, you can cherry-pick data to make it fit perfectly. This is exactly why internet experts and law enforcement remain highly skeptical of these viral, family-based accusations when compared to established cold case records. Section 5. The verdict on Hoffman. Fact or fiction? So it's time to deliver the final verdict on Richard Hoffman for this cold case review. To summarize, yes, Richard Hoffman shared a strange spelling error with the Zodiac. Yes, the initials RH were found at a potential early Zodiac crime scene. And yes, his background as a Vallejo police officer who was uncomfortably close to the crimes makes for an absolutely spine-tingling narrative. But as we've seen by comparing him to established historical suspects, circumstantial and anecdotal evidence is just not enough. Without a DNA match, a verified fingerprint, or concrete historical police documentation linking him to the crimes beyond a shadow of a doubt, these viral claims remain a truly fascinating internet rabbit hole, but they completely lack the verified proof required to solve the mystery. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. We live in an era where literally anyone can be accused of anything if a post gets enough viral momentum. Will the collective brainpower of the internet ever actually solve a verified cold case using digital sleuthing? Or are our algorithms just generating new ghosts for us to chase? It's definitely something to think about the next time a sensational true crime theory scrolls across your feed. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning what you see.